Now I want to begin this video by saying that the title might be borderline clickbait. Like most people, I believe Solo: A Star Wars Story to be a good film, with a good story that is consistent and fun to watch. However, this video isn't about talking about the objective quality of Solo as a film, rather how it is as a Star Wars film. Why this film lacks in what makes it a Star Wars movie. Now, I'm going to be comparing it to Rogue One a bit, because there are a lot of similarities between the two. Now, without further ado, let's begin. This question is a bit debatable. Some people will say it's the music, some will say story elements, such as the Force, the Jedi. Others might say it's simply blasters and starships. I believe what a Star Wars movie should consist of is, well, all of the above. There are several things in the Star Wars universe that should exist in everything Star Wars related. Recurring iconic elements such as familiar aliens, planets, characters, musics, or ships help ground a story in a set universe. Take, for example, the Silmarillion, compared to the rest of the Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit. They take place several thousand years apart. The Silmarillion does not focus on the Rings of Power, as a matter of fact, they weren't even forged yet at that point. The Silmarillion also lacks most of the familiar protagonists, such as Frodo, Bilbo, Gandalf, and Aragorn, and takes place in an older version of Middle-earth, a version unfamiliar and completely different than the one that we know in The Lord of the Rings. But the Silmarillion still manages to keep itself grounded and connected to the Lord of the Rings with its familiar species of dwarves, elves, men, and orcs, as well as with the creation of the new Middle-earth that we know at the conclusion of the book. Familiar elements are critical to keeping a story connected to a universe. If we replaced those species and removed all the familiar characters such as Elrond, Sauron, and Galadriel, the Silmarillion would distance itself too much from the Lord of the Rings, to the point where it would be difficult to even believe they exist within the same universe. Solo did precisely that. Solo kept its recurring aliens and planets down to a minimum. It also has next to no connection to the main elements that are so iconic to Star Wars, such as the Force, Jedi, lightsabers, and more. On one hand, I understand that this was the goal of the film, to distance itself from the main Star Wars formula. However, I feel they strayed too far from it with Solo. At Rogue One's core, it is more so a war film rather than a space fantasy, as most Star Wars films tend to be. However, it still manages to keep itself grounded in the Star Wars universe with references, familiar characters such as Vader and Tarkin, the Rebellion, and a glimpse of a familiar planet with Mustafar. But above all else, the main story being directly tied to the Death Star. Solo has none of these things. All planets in Solo are new additions to the Star Wars universe. Corellia, Vandor, and Kessel, which up to this point was only ever referenced. Then there's the aliens. We do see a familiar species for quite some time in Solo, that being the Wookiee. However, even here, when there is a familiar alien in Solo, they manage to make it unfamiliar by redesigning the Wookiee. We've seen Wookiees before in Clone Wars and Revenge of the Sith. We know what they look like, and this ain't it. Sure, Solo focuses on recurring characters such as Han and Lando, but here too, both characters being recasted makes it hard to believe that they are the same character. The main plot as well has no correlation to the Force, Jedi, or Rebellion, distancing itself from all sorts of things that could be happening in the universe at the same time. Solo's goal from the beginning was always to distance itself from the standard Star Wars formula, but the film turned into an example as to not stray too far as to become unrecognizable. With Solo's countless amounts of new aliens, none which look nice in my opinion, new planets, lack of familiar faces, and iconic elements make Solo a Star Wars story barely a Star Wars story. Regardless, I still think Solo is a good film and capable of standing on its own 2 feet, unlike the sequel trilogy which has most of what disconnects Solo in spades. Anyway, thank you very much for watching this video. I probably plan on doing this a bit more, so if you're interested in seeing more of these kind of in-depth dissections or analysis of film and TV shows, games, then maybe consider subscribing. And also, if you're interested in perhaps just having some fun, I also do have a Twitch stream, link in the description below. Thank you very much for watching and have a great rest of your day.